my neighbor. Welcome, neighbor. It's another edition of Power to the People. Glad you could join me. I got a few things to talk about today. Have a candidate here today, and let me say this off the top of the hour. I don't go to candidates. I don't reach out because if I reach out, I have to reach out to everybody. So I've said this every election cycle. The folks who call me, I let them come on. And that's for everybody. All you have to do is let us know that you want to come on, and we'll bring you on. So the reason because of equal time and all that, and if I reach out, I have to reach out to everybody, so I don't reach out. I let you all call me. So I do have a candidate who's going to be on today, and then I'm sure that other candidates are, well, maybe not. We've had others on, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I'll always give you a fair shake on this show. I promise you. I don't care. Even if that's interesting. If I was running, a person was running against me, would I have them on the show? Yep, I really would. Now, if they was being disrespectful, it would be a different thing.
Absolutely.
And then you get but the one time when we had one candidate, we had sound problems, and people thought that was oh, they don't want to hear. No, no. Mark was out of town.
Yeah.
Something happened. Why am I so muted on this? I'm real bassy, I'm not sure why somebody's, is that the same unit we used on the float? Yeah. So take out some whatever is making me real bassy. Yeah, that's better. All right, so I think first I'm going to talk a little bit about reparations because oh no, I want to talk about Roswell first. So this week, True Bethel on Tuesday had what's called the Eddie Mobile Screening Unit from Roswell, who they came to church a couple times, and then they took names of people to be screened right at the church's parking lot. Then they brought this huge mobile unit, has a waiting area, a computer area, and then it has the CT scanner.
Wow.
Huge. And they booked out.
Wow.
They booked totally out. So when we were here Saturday for Juneteenth, a man walks up when we came back and he said, "Hey, I'm here for Eddie." And everybody was like,
Eddie no live here.
"We don't have an Eddie that works here." No, I'm supposed to be here for Eddie. I'm to meet Eddie. He was talking about the mobile unit, but he came on the wrong day. But Eddie, so this is one of the first partnerships that Roswell has done. They have had Eddie out before, but it's usually at a firehouse. And when Roswell reached out and said, "We'd like to bring it right to the community." So Eddie was in the parking lot this week, and people signed up from True Bethel and other places. So it was out there, it was public, you could sign up. But what I'm so excited about is the people in this community being able to walk over to the Eddie truck.
Absolutely.
So in between having Eddie on premises, having Best Self on premises, that to me is like the cat's meow when you talk about for the type of ministry that I feel that True Bethel is called to do. So if you take now the mental health, Best Self, take Roswell, the partnership with Roswell, the food bus, the clothing bus, the brick and mortar food pantry, clothing pantry, youth ministries, that youth room. Oh my God, everybody's using that youth room right now. And as a matter of fact, the people who make Eddie were here, and they used it as their kind of staging area, their kind of place to eat, a place to chill. So that room, and now we're getting ready to work on this children's zone. So I'm really excited about what's happening right now in the church community, period, but definitely here at True Bethel. So big ups to Roswell Park, to Dr. Candace Johnson, and everything they do. But this bringing this unit to this city
Absolutely.
is huge.
It is huge, and I completely agree with how you worded it too. As being able to walk to get screened and not having to go to the medical campus.
Yes.
The medical campus is literally coming to you. And even to your last point, this is what the church should be doing and bringing these resources into our communities, because we're the ones that are literally in some areas keeping the community together. So
Absolutely.
So this is a huge.
Absolutely. And I think that this is so important that we continue to do it. You know, we're always looking for other opportunities. How can we better service our community? What else can we do in our community?
Absolutely.
As I was getting off the Eddie bus the other day, young lady walked up in tears. Not a part of the Ellicott district, didn't matter to me. Situation with housing.
Yep.
Same situation, by the way, almost exactly, of another woman I helped out. And that, I got to say this, big ups to Harold Cardwell, went to court with him. I got to say this on Judge Carney's part. I feel the judge ruled well in saying to that woman she could stay. This woman that walked up to me the other day, same thing.
Wow.
And by the way, folks, I'm not just talking the talk. We have a committee that's set up of professionals and community people that are looking at what laws we can make here in Buffalo about some of the really, I would call it predatory landlords, because this woman said her landlord was in Jamaica, from Jamaica, sold the house, didn't tell her, never told her.
Wow.
And we're going to talk to the candidate about this in a minute. Never told her that the house was sold. Then another person, buys it and puts them out without due process.
Wow.
And allegedly, the sheriff's office showed up, and now the judge says he turned all that around and said that the process that this guy used was incorrect.
Right.
So she's still in the house, but now she's got to move.
Right.
But had it not been for the judge, because Harold, I just turned her on to Harold the other day when I talked to her.
Right.
And she was so grateful. But I'm starting to think we need to partner with somebody's, either a home or somebody, to be here on the premises at least once a week.
Absolutely.
And let people in these neighborhoods be able to come here to the church, because not all, what some of these landlords are doing is unconscionable.
I agree, and I think, like you said, it's how do we get some of the resources out of City Hall, out of their organizations, because we always refer, call Harold and Bureau, or call home, or call elder law and things like that. But sometimes we got to get them out of their concrete structures and directly into the communities, because we might give the number, but then they'd be like, well, I still can't get down there to see you.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out, and I like that approach.
Drop in where, because what's happening now, you got to go downtown.
Yep.
If you drive, you got to park. If you don't drive, you got to take the bus. Now you got to wait. You got to hope you're going to see somebody. And I would love to have once a week on a specific day where people would know, and whether it would, maybe it's a conglomeration of different agencies who we invite and say, would you staff up an office, be out in the front hallway.
And it could be by appointment or whatever.
Whatever they want to do, but they be able to come right here. So I think that this is just really important. The candidate that we have with us today is a candidate running for the Ellicott District. Now, obviously, I'm not going to act like I don't know anything about the Ellicott District. I've been there for 12 years, and 12 great years. And before I go to the candidate, by the way, Juneteenth was just great. And the response of people when we would go by and thank them for 12 years was just phenomenal. And this is why I have enjoyed doing this job for 12 years. And those people say, I know you're tired. I'm going to say it for the 88th time. I am not running because I'm not running because I'm tired.
Right.
And I'm not running because something is wrong.
Right.
And I'm definitely not running because I thought I was going to lose. I'm not being, I'm just being honest. These are not the reasons. I'll say it very publicly. I'm running because I prayed and didn't hear from God. And I'm not doing something by myself. And so I once I didn't feel that unction from the Lord to run, I just, like Forrest Gump, I'm going home now. But Ellicott District has been great. We have accomplished a lot, and now there are others who want to continue and do their own thing. The guest today is Leah Halton-Pope, who both of us are very familiar with. In full disclosure, known her for years, and we did not meet in the church world. We met in the political world, as far as really sitting down, right? So you born here?
No,
or
I was
where?
born in Cleveland.
I did not know that.
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and I moved here when I was 4.
Oh,
on Hamlin Road.
Hamlin? Are you serious?
Very serious. In fact, one of the churches I visited on Sunday, the woman came out and she was like, "I used to babysit you and your sisters." Like some people say, because you grew up in church.
Yeah.
Oh, I've known you since
Right,
you were a
right.
little girl. She had facts.
Do you remember what number on Hamlin?
54.
Now you know where my parents live.
I-
On Hamlin Road.
I did not know that.
I grew. I mean, well, yeah, you weren't in. No. Yeah, I won't say their address online, but very close to that
Yeah,
address. So
54.
we were close. You remember the Petersons? Did you?
I
how long
was
were you there?
Very young.
Oh, yeah, you
So we
probably-
lived there for a couple years. My parents were in the. Actually, the weird part about what happened is my parents were closing on the house, and the gentleman who owned the home was going through a divorce with his wife in another state, and he never told her he had property in Buffalo.
Wow.
And so it put a hold, when she found out, of course, they put a hold on it. We had to go to court. Well, we were young. I'm 4.
Yeah.
My sisters are much younger than I.
Yeah.
My baby sister, I don't think, was even born yet. And we go into court because my parents now have to get their money back from this family. And the judge walks in and he's got a robe on it. My father was a pastor,
Right.
so we don't know what's happening. They say all rise, and we stand up and start clapping, and we're thinking we're at church.
Stood up. You th-
We didn't
in
know.
the courtroom.
4, 2, and a baby. Like, I don't know what else you thought was going to happen.
Okay. All right. So
I was probably maybe like 5 by then, but yeah.
and you all stayed a couple years on Hamlin.
We did. And then we moved into the University District, and we lived there for 8 years.
Yeah, Bennett Village.
That
Was
was,
it? That was a different one.
That was the second property that my parents just owned.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you this. Hamlin Road, and you were young, was the mover and shaker street.
Yeah.
It was on Hamlin Road that the first black mayor was from Hamlin Road. He wasn't elected; he was appointed because there was a gap, and whatever his position was, because he was a council member, Mr. Peterson, he ended up being the mayor for a very short period of time. But that's the real history of that. You had Horace Billy Johnson, Johnson, yeah. So you had a lot of state legislators on Hamlin Road.
Wow.
You had a lot of elected officials, doctors, dentists, jazz musician. Irv lived there. So if you lived on Hamlin,
I did.
it was the street for black power. You had Thelka McCall, who was on this radio station. She was a disc jockey. Her husband, Landon McCall, owned a barber shop, very involved in the Masons. And at the end of the day, pristine.
Wow.
And to this day, Hamlin Road is a very nicely kept street.
I was getting
It
ready
really
to say
is.
Yeah.
I recently visited.
Yeah.
Actually visited the house. They
Yeah.
were doing a documentary about my dad, and so the tenant allowed me to come in and walk through it again. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, in my head, it was so much bigger.
Oh, yeah.
When you're a little kid.
When we moved, it was my pastor's house.
Wow.
So Dr. Whitted, he lived there, and then St. Luke, AME Zion Church, got to say the whole thing,
Yes, you do.
bought a parsonage on Bennett Village. That's the only reason I remember.
Yeah.
So they bought a parsonage. Dr. Whitted sold Hamlin, and my parents bought it. Now, I was in awe of Dr. Whitted, obviously, to this day. So when I found out we were moving into oh my gosh, I walked through like, Dr. Whitted touched this light pole. I remember like thinking like that.
Wow.
Oh, this was his living room. And because to me, he was bigger than life. And like you said, the house was, because we moved from, I can say this, 31 Winslow upstairs. And most people who live at 31 Winslow have heard that I used to live there, because there are times that I will just ride down the street to just look, because there's so many memories. And there's been several times when tenants have been outside and be like, they said you used to live here. And I'm like, yep, certainly did, 31 Winslow. So when we moved to Hamlin, oh my goodness, I remember thinking we was rich.
We made it.
And I thought we was the Jeffersons. And my father, to this day, would always remind me, we ain't even middle class. That's what my father, he'd just break me down. He's like, we ain't even middle class, we poor. Boy, please, we got one car. Because we only had one car. We had they had a Maverick, then my mother got a Vega. And I mean, we had one car until probably I was moving out of the house.
Wow.
And then, because I had a car.
I was going to say, you had the second car, right?
No. Yeah, well, when I was in college,
Right.
my parents bought me a car.
Right.
And I flew home and took my car. I had a Chevy Chevette, brand new Chevy Chevette. I think it was at 1982.
my dad had a Chevette.
You had a Chevette?
He had a red Chevette.
Oh my God! I had a white 4-door Chevette, and we would pile in there because it had the hatchback, and we were church kids.
You had to.
So going to church, we would pile up in there and go and eat, and everybody had their cars. And then when I went to the military, I left the Chevette. My parents had a Mercury Marquis, and I went to Panama. My dad let me take the Marquis.
Really?
So I had this luxury vehicle in the military.
Wow.
However, it was a problem because the streets of Panama, now Marquis, big car, big car,
huge.
right? The streets of Panama were very narrow.
Oh.
So you trying to turn, it's like turning a tank.
I was going to say, you turned it like you got an 18-wheeler.
Yeah. And I've been back to Panama in the last few years. It's a lot different. It's more metropolitan now. It's like being in New York City, to be very honest. So I could have done it now, but back then, especially going, and I like to go to the villages.
Yeah, you do.
It was not the car. So I ended up selling that one. I must have bought about 5 cars while I was in Panama.
Wow.
I had a Jaguar. I had a Honda. I had so many cars. I just buy cars, go to the credit union and get me a couple $1,000 to buy a car, get rid of that one, buy them. Back to you.
Well, we had a station wagon.
You had a station wagon.
It was blue. The church actually started at 54 Hamlin Road.
Did it really? Mm-hmm. Wow. So the church started there.
So
what was your dad, and then we're going to come to you because we're going to talk about the issues. What was your dad doing before he started pastoring?
So my dad, let's see. When we were in Ohio, he was actually a sky cap.
Really?
And my parents owned
He
their
could be a sky cap. I can see that.
I don't know about that. But
I can see him being bubbly and all that kind of stuff.
bubbly, my dad? Yeah.
He was always bubbly with me. So
Because he liked you.
we liked each other. Your dad is a gadget king, was a gadget king.
Yes.
And he had more money than me. So he could buy stuff, and then he'd tell me, and I'd come over and see it because he's the first. I always talk to the story. The first person with a black computer.
Wow.
All computers are white, in these
I
boxes.
remember the gateways
Not Nathan Halton, not the bishop. He said, I got a black one. I said, you do? After that meeting, I went over to see his black one. As a matter of fact, your dad, the charter that we use right now for the city of Buffalo has your dad's signature on it.
Yeah.
He was on that charter review. So he was Sky Cap. You all moved here.
He was a Sky Cap. My parents also owned a business.
Okay.
It was called Leah's Place. It was like a restaurant and kind of more of a variety store. Mm-hmm.
Why was it called Leah's Place?
Because I was their only child for a while. I was the favorite in my mind.
Okay.
Don't tell my sisters.
Well, you do often, but
I really wasn't. That wasn't it. I was just the oldest and firstborn, and I'm the one that made them parents. So maybe that's why
they called it Leah's Place.
They called it Leah's Place. So he owned that. He was assistant pastor at their church in Ohio, and when they came here, I can't remember what he did for a living because I don't know why I never asked that question. But he was always in pastoring, so that was it. And he was we attended Emmanuel Temple for a while, and he felt the call to pastor. And it started with just like 7 people and around a dining room table Bible studies. And before you knew it, we were at the YMCA around the corner. I think it's called Expressway now.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that was where my sister Rachel was baptized for the first time.
Wow.
And then we started renting the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the school. There was a classroom in there. We would rent that. And then we got too big for that. So we started renting the bingo hall. And
Was the bingo board still up?
yes, they would
Praise
come
the Lord, everybody. B-I-N-G-O, praise the Lord.
There was a big sign outside of the building. I mean, and growing up Pentecostal, that was different.
Wow.
But we would come in on Saturdays, clean like my sisters and I would come and help my parents, and the church members would come and would mop everything, set up the chairs, and start service. And that only lasted for a little while. And before I knew it, like, we owned that building. We bought it from the Catholic Diocese.
Wow.
And I think they were able to pay off a 30-year mortgage in between 10 and 15 years.
That's crazy. I remember your dad with the blackboard.
Yes.
That's what, when I would see him on public access, he had a blackboard and chalk, and he'd be right. And I mean, his memory was just outstanding.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah, it really was, and how he could put pieces together. I'm like, wait, I got to rewind that. 'Cause I didn't catch that. Let's talk about Leah Halton-Pope.
Great.
I saw a sign, and I have one in front of my house. A new voice for a new elegant. Tell me what that means.
So the district itself, as you know, sir, I was on the redistricting commission. And
Yes.
we redistricted.
Yes.
It didn't look exactly like it did when we finished.
Yes.
But now this new elegate, which will be, I mean, obviously in January, it's huge. Surface area wise, it's large. It's made up of people from every socioeconomic background, religion, education, financial, homeowners, renters, so this new elegate, it hasn't existed before, and so that's not.
I'm glad you
away
gave
what
that
existed.
clarification.
Yeah.
That's what you mean by the new elegant.
Yeah, it's not that
It's
the
not
elegate but it's not what it was because
Absolutely.
it's different.
Absolutely.
When we go all the way up to Genesee Moselle,
Yeah.
Windy, down to South Park, and
Yeah.
now over Lafayette, like Elmwood Village is now part of the district, so it's completely different than what it was over the last 12 years.
And I want to say this because I know that when people saw that map and it was like, oh, they're gerrymandering, there were so many rules that you have to follow. You have to have the equal amount of constituents in every district.
Yep.
And what that effort was, and to keep communities alike together. And I don't think anybody would argue that one of the purposes was so that African Americans did still continue to have a voice in their district. And so it didn't move all the way to the west side or move south. From it did encompass more, some of Lovejoy and all those things based on numbers.
Absolutely.
And is it a perfect map? No, but I don't know of anything that's perfect, any map that's perfect. But the effort and what was behind it was to the law.
Absolutely.
To the law. And I think that's why when there was a lawsuit about it, that lawsuit didn't advance. We did everything to the law. And at the end of the day, if you prevail as the Ellicott District Council member, what would you say your top? And I hate when people act like it's one, so there may be several.
Right.
But what would those be?
So what I initially thought it would be, I'm happy to know that it's consistent with what I'm hearing on the doors. So making sure that people who live in Ellicott now can continue to do so, and that's by working to make sure that there's affordable housing.
Yes.
And dealing with that issue specifically, making sure that there aren't exorbitant rents. Like, people don't mind paying rent, but not where they get priced out of their neighborhoods and their communities. Homeowners, especially long-term homeowners, making sure that they don't get taxed out of their communities as new development happens in the community. Investment in infrastructure, so streets, sidewalks, curbs. These are things that are the same on either side of Main Street, the west or east of Main. And the other is neighborhood stabilization by focusing on economic development and supporting our small businesses. And I believe that takes working with our state, our federal, and county to make sure that there are resources that are put into those neighborhoods.
I spend a lot of time, for me it's a lot of time in Toronto. and I don't mean like just downtown, in these neighborhoods. And there's all of these small shops in almost every neighborhood in metropolitan Toronto. Now, I know we can't, our numbers are nowhere near, but I think that there's a model there that if we support small businesses, like you said, so I'm really glad to hear, and I've been pushing for that. You know, how do we more support those local business? And it doesn't have to be a bar on every corner. You know, I think,
no, absolutely.
you know, people
No.
want this comeback of the neighborhood bar. It's a different time. The neighborhood bar on the corner, and I ain't knocking on them. What I'm saying is that's not how you build wealth.
Absolutely not.
It's got, you know, you want to go to bar, you go to bar, but I'm saying that you need those corner shops. You need real food, delicatessen being a real delicatessen
Absolutely.
with fresh fruits and vegetables and those things in your neighborhood. And just, you know, there's a place for artists and crafts. And if you look on in areas, and this is, you know, one thing that I've been cautious about the city land on Jefferson, is not just giving it away to the highest bidder. What is it going to look like?
Absolutely.
What is it going to look like? So you just brought up about infrastructure and all that. Now, I want to bring up two things. One is what someone said about you possibly being a rubber stamp to the mayor. Respond to that.
It's categorically false. That would just imply that I'm not an independent thinker, and I think it attacks my character and my nature. I mean, those who know me know I have no problem speaking up. I think I will always do what's right for my community as a whole, and specifically for the Ellicott district. If it doesn't work for them, even if it is the mayor, then I have no problem challenging him on that. My approach might not be always the way people want it to be, because I think some things can be done outside of the public sphere. But I do think if it calls for public conversations, then that's what it will be. But I don't know why people would ever assume that when I haven't talked to them.
Now, I'll just say this, and we do not endorse on this show. We are a sponsored show, so we don't endorse. I will say that from a personal place, I know Leah Halton-Pope makes up her own mind.
Yeah.
Are you afraid to tell the mayor no?
No, not at all.
Yeah. See how
Never
quick
have
that
been.
came out? You see how quick that came out? Because that's how you are.
I
I think me and the guy on the other side of the mic realized that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Especially him.
So again, this show does not endorse any candidates. This is not an endorsement of any candidate. And again, for clarity, any candidate of any office is always welcome to come on the show. You just have to call us. I don't go out and call and recruit people to come in.
I'll be honest with you, sir. In this space that I work in the government space especially, I've spent the last 10 years working for Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes as their senior advisor. You can't be in that position and not be comfortable saying no to something.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is a good idea. I would advise against that. No, we're not doing that. Because that's just who I am, and that's why she trusts me. And I think it's our job, both in a forward-facing position and behind the scenes, to always be honest and direct. And then, of course, if your name isn't on the door, you make a decision. But if I don't tell you the truth, then I'm not being true to myself either. And I can't live that way.
I appreciate you saying that. I think that there are times that when people may have a relationship, I went through the same thing of people saying, oh, he'll be a rubber stamp. I ain't been a rubber stamp in 12 years, trust me. And all you got to do is, and I got the receipts. You can go back and look. And there were many things that the mayor and I agreed on and that the mayor and I didn't agree upon. And I tried to always lead with integrity. And no, I'll say I led with integrity. And at the end of the day, I think that what is most important in whether it's Ellicott or Maston, is to lead for the people.
Right.
And that's what I'm glad you responded to that because I think it's so important. So there's been several articles about how much money you have raised and where that money came from. I want to talk about that. Some people feel like that's a problem. Do you?
No, I don't feel like it's a problem.
Why not?
I'm not going to apologize for the relationships I've built over my 20 years of service, both here in Albany and in D.C. when I lived there. And so because people believe on...
So you lived in D.C.?
I did live in D.C.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I lived and worked in D.C. I did work on the federal level as a grant analyst. I followed appropriations, et cetera, and also was a liaison between some of my principals and Capitol Hill on behalf of cities and local governments, institutions of higher education, some social services initiatives. And so I'm not feeling bad about my relationships that I've built. I think it works better for Ellicott that I can make calls on behalf of the district.
Yeah, see, I couldn't make a Washington call. I don't know folks up in D.C. But you feel that benefits your district?
Without question, I do. I think relationships really do matter, and experience matters. And being able to call someone, because I've always maintained my independence and built my own separate relationships in addition to those on behalf of my principals, being able to call those individuals to say, hey, look, there's an organization that needs help in this space. Can you help us with this? Or we need resources. I think we should figure out how we can get some funds from the federal government or from the state. Is there a law that needs to be put in place that needs to happen? And you have to understand, one, how laws work, and two, how money flows. And you need relationships to know those things. And experience, in my opinion, it matters, if only from those perspectives.
You know, I never thought about how powerful that can be for a council member to have connections in other places that you can pick up the phone for your district.
Right.
And I know one of the connections, and I got it as a council member that I got, was with Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
And for him to call when I was laying in the bed with COVID, or for him to call and say, hey, can you meet me over here because I'm trying to bring in some money, or what do you think about this, has been a benefit. Mm-hmm. And some people think that only the mayor should be able to do that. I don't apologize. I'm the same way as you. I'm really glad you came on the show. I'm really glad you clarified, because I think some people need to recognize that at the end of the day, relationships are important. Absolutely. And if you have the right relationships, it's not just the mayor then that could call D.C. and say, we need some help over here with this. If you had to call, and you could pick out anything. I'm not saying it's your priority, because you get to these offices and you find out your priorities end up changing because there's a lot of people who say what they'll do when they get to these offices that they can't do.
Right.
Like sometimes I just want to say, you can't do that.
Preach.
First of all, that is a county issue. You need to be running for county, or you can't do that. That's a federal issue, or you can't do that because state law prohibits it. So it sounds good to people to say, I'm going to do this. And second of all, what some people say, and I'm just talking about candidates in general, I'm going to make sure this happens. Well, you're a council member.
I'm going to work towards it.
And you have to also have relationships, because I'm the council president. I still only get one vote.
Right.
Sure do.
So you got to get at least 4 other people to agree with you, and then sometimes 5, so that it's veto proof, so that you have 6. So a lot of times when you hear people talking about what they are going to do, if you don't know what they can do and what they can't do, it sounds good.
Right.
But talking about what you're going to do in education in the city of Buffalo that has no say-so, then you might need to run for school board. You're talking about what you're going to do with social services that the city of Buffalo has nothing to do. You might want to run for Erie County legislature. I can go on and on and on and on.
I could not agree with you more.
I could go on and on. So because you have contacts, which, like you said, I mean, you just brought you just said something that's very powerful, that with those contacts, you can call for your district if you're elected.
I can.
What would be some of the things that you would advocate for Ellicott?
One of the things that I'd really love to see, and this would take some time and it takes relationships, on the affordable housing front, I would love to see equity built in for those tenants, especially long-term tenants. So if a developer were to build a property in the district, to allow over time a portion of their rent, if it became a co-op or a condo, for those individuals who've been there for a certain amount of time, to be able to have a portion of their rent go into escrow so that they can become owners and create generational wealth.
And you're talking about development that would be assisted by the government. So I want to be clear.
So federally funded resources, but that would require understanding what the laws currently are on the federal level, what can be done, what can't be done, and then also state law. is that something that we can do? And
Can we pause right there?
Yes.
The guy who was just interviewing me the other day, when I would say something that was interesting, he would say, now, a motorcycle is there. I never heard that. So a motorcycle is there. Let me pause, because a motorcycle is there. A lot of people talk about what they do. You just said something about state law, because there's some stuff. Now, you have been very intimately involved in state law for how many years?
10 years.
So you know state law.
I do know it pretty well.
You work for the majority leader of the state of New York.
I do, and I've
So
written laws for her.
if you win, you walk into this seat knowing state law, and you're not out there trying to figure it out.
But not only that, sir, but having also provided for the Ellicott District from the Fruitvale Parking Permit Program, which I helped with you.
Yes. Well, and I will always give credit where that was something, and I'm going back to relationships matters.
Mm-hmm.
If we did not have relationships, there would be, that was the first permit and only permit parking in the city of Buffalo. And we were told by many people it couldn't happen because of state law. If we did not have relationships with people in the state who were listening to us and then work together, and then when we were almost there, the union said, heads and all, because our people need someplace to park. So having the relationships with the union, having the relationships with the state, having the relationships with the administration, and having the relationships with the community allowed there to be still, and I want everybody to know it's still a pilot project, but that gets renewed every so many years.
Yes.
Hopefully one day it'll be permanent. We don't have to do it. But you know that process.
I do. I mean, it was exciting to work on. It was definitely challenging. I think we changed the boundaries 50,000 times.
Yes.
I think one year we went up to an E version. For those who don't know, an E version means there were 5 versions of the same bill.
Yes.
Just because we moved boundaries.
We was moving boundaries based on a house sometimes. Half of a street. Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, literally, yes.
And then when we thought we were there, as you said, then it came to figuring out how
I remember the meeting where I thought we were there, and we were sitting in the mayor's office, and the union was on the conference, and we think we're there, and the union said, no, we can't, and my heart just, and then we were getting blocked, I think in the Senate. We kept getting blocked in the Senate. It couldn't go through the Senate. And then, the person wasn't there no more, and it just went through.
Well, actually, the majority leader and I actually went to the Senate on behalf of the current senior senator for Buffalo, Senator Kennedy. We went to Senate leadership together. And sat in meetings, and we're like, no, we need this, and here's why. And there was the former transportation chair in the assembly had issue with parking permits as well. He's deceased now, Assemblymember David Gant. And I think she and I got on his nerves so bad. He's like, just give these 2 women what they want. Just make them, just give it to them.
If you win Ellicott, will you be a pain in the butt like that to get the stuff done for
Absolutely.
those? So you've learned this thing.
Well, yes, I have, but it's also probably genetic. When you're the oldest of 4 girls, and my dad, he had all brothers, and so he raised us to be able to speak up for ourselves, but more importantly for those who don't have a voice and may not have those same connections. And so I use that on a regular basis, and I've never had a problem doing so. I think I'm stronger when I'm more uncomfortable when it's me out front and it's just me. But if it's for somebody else, I have no problems ever.
So, unfair question, but I really want to understand this.
Oh, no.
There's the council is made up of all men now. There's been many people who have said there needs to be a woman on the council.
I agree.
Tell me why. I mean, what? Okay, this is where I get a little confused. Because there's some women who say we want not equality, equity, right?
Yep.
Do you feel a woman is going to bring something different?
I think we bring a different perspective. We make up 50%, well, more than that, of our population, specifically Black women. We are the backbone of our communities. I think bringing that voice to the table enhances the experience of government for the community as a whole, and not having representation at the table there in that house, in that body, is a disservice to half of your entire community. We can't speak about issues that are important to women without having women physically there to speak on their own. And so while it's great to have you find gentlemen speaking on our behalf, but nobody gets it until you have somebody who lives it. We are CEOs, We are caregivers.
Oh, and by the way, I'm not against it. Before, so everybody knows.
I don't doubt that you are.
I wanted clarification of your thoughts, so I don't want to.
no.
He against women. He thinking no. Keep
No,
going. I'm
but we
sorry.
have to do everything, and we figured out how to do it. We are primary breadwinners in some of our households, but then we are wives. We're soft. We're loving, and to not have that voice and just say that it only can come from one gender is a disgrace, to be honest with you, that it's gone that long. But the constituency is the one who has to make that decision.
I was just about to say, we've had people come to council, because all y'all men, we chose,
No,
the
I don't say
voters
that.
chose. The voters choose who they want to represent them, and if that's who the voters chose, that's who they chose. At the end of the day, and there have been women on the council.
There have been.
And this city downsized its council, and after the downsizing, you didn't have as many seats. You didn't have any at-large seats at all, and so the districts choose who they want to. And I don't blame the council for that. That's what the people voted for. 33 runs right through the heart of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There are those who are for covering it. And there are those who are against. Where are you at?
I'm wherever the community is, and they seem to want to have it covered. And so if that's what they want, I 100% stand behind them. They've been working on it for, 25 years, almost 30 years. And whatever solution works for them is what's working for me. I live here.
That's how I've led for 12 years.
Right.
If they love it, if they like it, I love it.
Yeah.
If they hate it, I hate it.
Exactly.
And that's been the way I've operated, and tell people you got to go to community, because that's the people who put us here. When I first started pastoring True Bethel, Clark Eaton was alive, and he wanted me to come to a meeting about covering the 33. And I went to a meeting, and in my head I thought, this will never happen. There will never be resources. Now, what I don't want to see, and I know this won't happen, is just some type of concrete slab covering the 33.
No.
It has to be that beauty and, have the greenery and have all of those things. Because here's what trips me out when people say, first of all, I think because they don't know of Olmsted's vision. And so we are quick to put money in the Olmsted's vision in other parks
Right.
across the city and go, oh, that's beautiful. And then when it comes to putting money into the east side, it's like, that's a waste of money.
Right.
That's a waste. Why can't we have it all? For me, I'm tired of people feeling like east side is either or.
Yep.
We gave y'all this. You ain't give us
You didn't give us anything.
daggone thing. At the end of the day, there has not been equity across this city. And at the end of the day, to beautify, and this is my personal opinion, to beautify a portion, to get rid of a highway where you got, and I know we going electric and all that, you still got traffic. You still have everything moving through. And right now, at the end of the day, why can't we have that and other things? Olmsted, I'm not going to say nobody. Some of the people who complain about covering the 33 do not complain about putting millions of dollars into other parts of Olmsted's vision. And I can't understand why you would not want a community to be beautified, to be reunited. And I know some people feel like it ain't going to reunite and put it. I tell you what, live in that area. And you want your children to be able to walk safely,
across the
and
street,
you
right.
want to sit. Once it's there, I think a lot of the people who felt like this is a waste will go, this is unbelievable. Rochester redid theirs, right?
And it's
now you know
incredible.
about it. So this is about your experience. Tell me about Rochester, what you know about.
So I don't know the details, the intimate details of it, but I know what I've seen since it's been covered. It is incredible. It seems to have reunited a community. When I think about what will happen here, the green space, and especially in an environmental space that we're in right now, where you've got climate change happening, creating spaces where people can connect back with the earth.
Yeah.
Knowing that there were 70,000 cars that drive up and down the 33 every day, and the toxins that impact people's lives, I think that this is the best thing that's ever happened. And in Rochester, it's connected. You've got a museum that's over there, a children's museum, if I'm not mistaken, that is in that same community. And to know that people are using it, there are people living closer, all around it. You wouldn't even have known that was part of that loop.
Well, and my heart goes out to the baby who was killed over by Delaware Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you saw how quick government moved.
Overnight.
Right? Overnight. Changing roads, changing
Without
infrastructure. Without conversation, which I didn't agree with some of the moves. Changing speed limits, just overnight. We've been dealing with lung cancer, with emphysema, with all of that for years, and now talking about changing it, bringing, reigniting a neighborhood and reuniting, and some people have a problem with that.
But I was just going to say, just like you said, you ain't going to run a 33 through Chapin or Bidwell Parkway.
All right,
not.
preach.
Like
Absolutely
you ain't
not.
Preach.
Like some of these other neighborhoods, wouldn't be
Preach.
talking about, oh, we want to be reunited. That's
Preach.
not going to help. All right, well, let's go run another Elmwood Village thoroughfare through.
And they didn't
It would
run it
never
through
happen.
those neighborhoods.
No.
Would never happen.
Yeah. Any last thoughts before we? How many? Where am I at? We okay. All right. What do you want to talk about? And again, let me say for I think the third time, this is not an endorsement of any candidate. This show does not invite candidates on. We leave an open door for any candidate for any public office who would like to be on, and we'll have you on.
I want to thank you for your leadership and your service for the last 12 years. When I first interacted with you moving back to Buffalo, I think I was working on Obama's campaign, and I sent a Facebook message, y'all. Let me just tell you, don't do that.
No, to this day,
I
don't
am
do
an
that.
anomaly. I don't know how I got through, but I did. And I wanted to talk to you specifically because I couldn't understand the division, or what I perceived as being a division between my own community.
Yeah.
Where I didn't understand like how Black people couldn't get together to support another Black person.
Yeah, yeah.
And so to sit and talk to you and understand, but not only that, but also, hey, sir, well, how can you do this in government and still be a person of faith, especially having just moved back from D.C. and like you remember your Floyd Flakes and others, and you know that they did both as Congress and then also pastoring.
And Floyd Flake was the one who not just inspired me to run for school board, who encouraged me.
Wow.
Like personally.
Wow.
And when Floyd Flake was at Mount Olive Baptist ministers had him. And it was just conversation. And my question to him, I was considering school board. I said, people say, members pastors shouldn't get involved. And so Floyd says, and he talked about connections because Floyd Flake got started in politics, one of the ways, because he built housing. He didn't go through the local government. He had connections. He said he couldn't get anything through the local government.
Wow.
So he knew people in D.C.
Wow.
So he made the call to D.C. and got his local house. So this is what he said to me when I posed my question. He said, Adam was not created just to be in the garden.
Right.
Adam was supposed to tend the garden. He said, and us in government tend the garden.
Right.
Wow.
And he said, you should run if that's what you feel. And I ran for school board and won, ran for council and ran for council and ran for council and ran. Then the Lord didn't say nothing.
Then he got quiet. Then he got quiet.
So when the Lord got quiet, that meant somebody else is supposed to tend the garden.
Absolutely.
And now you get to sit, Adam.
Absolutely.
And that's it. So you bringing up Floyd
Yeah.
is very important to me.
And I also felt like that experience and that conversation resonated with me. It just kind of sat with me because so many people become disenfranchised between the church and government, to be honestly, on both sides.
Yes.
And to know that there's a person with integrity that works with integrity in both spaces, I think is really important. But to leave on your own terms, having that heart of service, but then decide not to be pushed out, but I'm done, this is it. And knowing when your time's up is critical, I feel, to government and to service in general. And I appreciated that initial conversation, and then watching it walk out, to now is very impactful for me.
I don't want to be anywhere where I'm not valuable and useful.
Right.
And Bishop Morton, our founder of Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, says all the time, if you're the leader of something and it's not growing, you might have to look at where you're at.
That's so true.
Right.
And I don't even want to be at True Bethel beyond my expiration date.
Yeah.
I want to be here, but there's going to be a day God says, go home, Forrest Gump. And you got to stop. I always say I'm not going to tear up a church trying to keep a church.
Right.
If it got to that point, it's over.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, that has been how I've led. That's been, and I appreciate the words. Leah Halton-Pope, she's a candidate for the Ellicott District. Primary is on what day?
So on June the 27th, early voting is right now through today, Friday. You can vote until 9 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday, tomorrow and Sunday, you can vote from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. You can go to the Board of Elections to look for a location. But it's important that we vote.
And you do not have to vote in your district. Nope. You can go anywhere. We are advanced now. We
were actually the most advanced in the state to have as many, especially when early voting first started. And I have to give big props to Chairman Zellner for that. When we started early voting, to have not like a location in all 9 councilmatic districts, plus throughout the rest of the county, it was more than any other city or municipality in the state.
Now there's actually 11 in the city because they did 2 neutral sites, the Board of Elections and the Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site.
I love it. Yeah. And Sunday, I said I was going Sunday, and I forgot. I just forgot.
Well, you have time today, sir. You can go until 9 p.m.
Friday to you can go to 9 p.m. Today on Friday. And do your early voting. You may as well just do it now, get it over with. Vote for the candidate of your choice, but vote. Don't just say, "Oh, it's not already." Don't believe people when they tell you that it's already fixed. Mm-mm. It is a very, very open process as far as voting, but it's also very highly regulated. So, folks, the candidate is not chosen. You choose them. Listen, I want to thank Hobson's, the Dr. Dry Cleaner at 874 East Delavan. That's 874 East Delavan. Go over to Hobson's. Now I'm doing the transition from the winter clothes. It's such a pain because I'm only going to have the summer clothes out for 3 months, and then you got to do it all over again. 874 East Delavan, but I take my winter stuff, get that ready, put it in the closet, in a different closet, so I can make the transition when the winter comes that everything is ready. So, Hobson's, the Dr. Dry Cleaner. And when you take your clothes, go pick them up, please.
Please.
Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home, 3 locations to serve you, 347 Peckham, 2528 Bailey, 1275 Sycamore. In your hour of need, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. I'm throwing it back over to the station. Thank you for being with us. Until next week, power to the people.
When it comes to something as personal as your clothes, you need to deal with somebody you can trust. That's why so many people turn to Hobson's Dry Cleaning, conveniently located in the heart of the community at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming.
When you take your clothes to Hobson's, you can trust that they'll be ready on time.
You can trust that your whites will be white.
You can trust that you'll always get a fair price and service with a smile.
You can even trust that you won't have to get out of your car if you don't want to. Hobson's has a drive-through window for your convenience.
Trust is what it's all about at Hobson's Dry Cleaning.
Hobson's Dry Cleaning, your one-stop dry cleaners serving the community for over 30 years at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming. Call 891-8298. That's 891-8298.
Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home has 3 locations to serve you in Buffalo. 347 Peckham, 2258 Bailey Avenue, and Providence Memorial Chapel at 1275 Sycamore. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes offers traditional services, and they have services for all faiths. And at Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, they have air-conditioned parlors and chapels. Financing is available, as is limousine service. At those difficult moments in your life, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes is available where you are with counseling services. Call toll-free 877-885-7734. That's 877-885-7734. Or locally, 845-5545. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. We are here to serve you, here to serve this present age. Call today, toll-free, 877-885-7734. Or email info@brianklewisfuneralhome.com.